Anybody wants to? We're gonna call the meeting to order in just a moment. If you want to grab a quick drink or something to have at your side to nibble on. This is a little bit looser of a meeting, but we still do start with the pledge and a moment of silence. So if everybody could please kindly stand for a moment and remain standing. Cody, want to lead us, please?
Please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silence for our first responders and our military harm's way. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Please have a seat. If you didn't grab something to eat or drink, go ahead and do so. And I'd just like to welcome, I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you all for coming. We cannot, as a township, run without volunteers doing sometimes the heavy lift, but many of you do. We do appreciate that very much. Does anybody on the board have any other opening comments? Then we'll go ahead and get started. Sandy, hi, you got to walk in the door and bam, hit the ground. So I'm gonna ask if you're ready to come on up. Dan's gonna talk. Oh, Dan's here.
Chairman, so Dan's gonna do it, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Perfect. I didn't see Dan behind you there at first. I'm sorry. Hi, Dan. Come on up. While Dan's coming up, if any of you would like to see the other goals that have been set by the other ABCs, we'd like you to please kindly refer to the agenda online, and all of them are online in an electronic format.
Share the screen as well.
And Derek is going to share the screen. Hi, Dan.
Good evening.
Good evening. Just make sure that microphone is down at your place there and you can talk into it. Oh, Derek's going to make sure to turn it on. Hold on.
Turn it on without.
Oh.
You hear me?
Nope. Yep. Let's give it a shot.
That goes along with being the first ones. My name is Dan Flynn and I represent the Conservancy Board. I'm newly elected chairman of the board, and with that goes the exit of Sandy Snyder as chairperson. And I'd just like to thank Sandy for the wonderful, wonderful work she did while she was chairperson. She really kept things going, and hopefully I can live up to that. Even a little bit would be enough. So I'm going to speak real briefly here. I'll give you our mission statement, 2023 accomplishments, and 2024 goals. The mission statement: protect and nurture East Goshen's natural resources and educate East Goshen citizens of the importance of those resources. And 2023 accomplishments, there are 10 of them. We managed a successful Keep East Goshen Beautiful Day on April 22nd, 2023. That's an annual event that the Conservancy Board puts together. And it's a really neat event. I personally participated for the last couple of years. It's really great to get your hands dirty on behalf of the township, and it shows positive results. Observance of Arbor Day, April 22nd, 2023, same day. We had a tree planting ceremony in Climbers Woods. Continued maintenance of Climbers Woods, continued maintenance of the Bluebird boxes in Applebrook Park, continued work on the application renewal of Tree City USA to the Arbor Day Foundation. And the whole point of that, I believe, was it's sort of some type of tangible proof or something we can show the residents that, you know, the community values certain things and benefits us all. And whether it's, you know, educating the community about conservation issues, planting trees, the Arbor Day or rather the Tree City USA. It is a nice way to do that, to sort of focus everything. And hopefully the community responds to that. And number 6 is perform review and comments on various proposed subdivision land developments in the township for zoning requests. We planted trees in Supplee Valley Preserve and CRC Watersheds Association plantings in Applebrook Park. One of the issues from a conservation perspective in East Goshen Township is with the waterways. And I would say the 2 biggest issues are runoff and heat. Willistown Conservation Trust has done a survey, very extensive, and they looked at parts of the streams in East Goshen Township. And those were the 2 biggest problems facing East Goshen were heat in terms of the water temperature. And the best way to deal with that is plant trees. And so if you notice in East Goshen Park, there are quite a few trees. I think there's 125 that are planted along some of the little feeder runs to Ridley Creek. And then in Supplee Park, same thing. There are trees planted along the waterway in Supplee Park. So that's that's adding value to our community. It's helping preserve the life of the stream. Something we can all share in. Invasive species remediation as needed. That's done regularly, year over year. Conducted public education event on March 29th, 2023 with presenters from Willistown Conservation Trust and Stroud Water Research Center. Stroud provided a Penn professor who paired with a presenter from Willistown Conservation Trust, was open to the public. We had maybe 25 or maybe 30 people, probably like 25 people. And it was a great presentation. It was in this room. And basically what they did is they set a framework for how we should look at the natural resources, especially the waterways in our township, why they're important, what's the benefit to the community, and what is the status of them. Willistown answered that question. And then what are the things we can do to improve those waterways? And they're looked at as a common asset for all of us. And I know probably the average person drives over the bridges and they don't see the Ridley Creek signs and the Chester Creek signs, but the streams are there, and there's all kinds of water life and birds, amphibians, whatnot. But they're a real good barometer of what is the health of our township, like the environmental health of our township. And I think it's the least we can do is to watch after them and be good caretakers of it. And these folks were great from Willistown and Stroud. And we, the Conservancy Board, are going to continue that, the education process. And hopefully, we get better at it in terms of outreach and advertising and get more community involvement. That's the hope of it. And then number 10, inform the public about meaningful conservancy issues via contributions to the township newsletter. We write articles and we submit them to the township newsletter. Again, hopefully to raise awareness on why does it matter? What's the point? And sort of the underlying tone is, it doesn't matter where you live, whether you live next to a stream or you're, a couple developments over from a stream. We're all kind of in this together in terms of actions that can affect the quality of the streams, wildlife, and make this, an asset for the community. 2024 goals. We're going to continue to keep East Goshen a beautiful day. Continue the maintenance on the Bluebird houses, continue maintaining Farmers Woods, continue maintenance enhancement of riparian buffers along the creeks via tree planting, continue invasive plant species control, Continue to support Ashley Nowak in terms of Tree City USA requirements. There's annual requirements for that. That we have to keep up with, and Ashley's very, very, very valuable in terms of keeping up with that. And then continue assisting the township water management projects as needed. Plan an Arbor Day event, we'll continue that. Encourage public awareness of the value and condition of the township's natural resources through one evening educational presentation. We all live upstream, and one weekend public walkabout presentation through Apple Park. So we already have booked, We All Live Upstream. That presentation is going to happen at the end of, I'm not sure if it's the end of this month or early next month. I believe it's early next month. And we are putting together a walkabout presentation in Applebrook Park, which really is, you can get a firsthand view of, you know, how property can be managed to, say, clean runoff, so that when the water gets into the streams, it's cleaner water. And there's a lot to look at over in Applebrook, so we want to do that. And plus, it's an excuse to walk the dog for a mile, but that's going to be happening. And then we're going to continue to contribute to the newsletter, and we will continue pursuing joint events with local significant others like Willistown Conservation Trust. They have really interesting take on different issues. So that's it, and it's a great group of people. It really is. You know, they volunteer their time, and they really have good things to say. You know, it's a nice organization. The Conservancy Board, it's a nice organization to be a part of. I'm very fortunate about that. And that's all I have. Don't want to delay.
Thanks, Dan. Would you stay there for just a moment?
Yeah.
Are there any board questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I'll just make a couple brief comments. Sandy, thanks for your service as chair. Dan, I'm very confident in your ability to help fill those shoes. And also, thank you for all the work they do for the Bluebird houses along the park. I don't think many people know all the work that you do for that. Just a couple quick things. The Keep East Goshen Beautiful Day, we have that for April 20th, correct? Okay. I don't know what we can do from like an email perspective or social media blast, but we also purchased signs for the first time as well throughout the park that will place saying this upcoming Saturday is Keep East Goshen Beautiful Day. Another thing we discussed at our meeting was, while we have 5 conservancy members here tonight, there's a lot of members who aren't part of, who are part of a board but aren't here tonight. So we talked about potentially sending out this packet to other ABCs, so they're aware of what other committees are doing. I don't know if other people would find that helpful to see what others are doing, but it's something that we discussed. So we can make that ask for Derek. I know this isn't publicly aware, or it's made available online, but something that we talked about. And then lastly, and I'll be quiet, is we talked about ABC members in their activity. And I know every couple of years we do the renewal or reappointment, but there are some boards that have members that, you know, they have life events, which is understanding, but we have some that may not participate as much as others do. And then there may be a wait list, or maybe people want to fill that board. So maybe just a discussion on board members and how we can handle inactive ABC members. So just a discussion
That's
for
good.
future.
Anybody else any comments?
I would just like to say I'm really impressed with all that you have done and with your plan going forward, and look forward to being engaged with what you do.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Dan, I have a quick question for you that you can answer probably off the top of your head. When do you clean out the Bluebird houses? Because I have Bluebird houses now, and
Yeah, I'm doing that.
is it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Can I
when you
answer?
normally, so like March and,
Right, it has to be.
well, we just put them out, so they're clean right now. When do we do it again?
Well, actually, here's the challenge on that. The challenge is sparrows will come and take over, sometimes they will come and take over the box.
Oh,
So ideally, you have to look at them every week weekly, you have to look at and see if the sparrow has nested.
Okay.
And I have seen, I walk in the park fairly regularly, and I've seen and, you know, cleaned out boxes that are taken over by sparrows. If I see them, but I
Okay,
don't, I'll do one time, clean out everything, disinfect it, clean it out. And then if I walk and I see a sparrow, I'll come back and send them, open that box up.
okay,
If there's sparrow eggs and, you know, the sparrows, that out.
okay,
But really, to do it, you have to do it right. You really have to keep up with it on a
Okay.
regular basis.
good
So
to know,
we're not really kind of set up for that.
right,
So maybe, and we've talked about this at our meeting, maybe we need to have like a subgroup,
Mhm.
you know, community group,
Got it.
like birders,
Okay,
who would be interested in doing that.
that's interesting,
And I think there's 13 of them over on the Applebrook side. So there's quite a few of them. And I know we had a question about liability and all that. And then somebody's been looking at liability. So we're kind of working on that to see, you know, see if that's something that we can put out there.
okay,
Awesome.
okay,
Madam Chair, if I can make one more additional
go
comment.
ahead, go ahead,
On Saturday at 9 a.m., we'll be doing some bluebird box cleanings. Is that still on, correct? He'll show us, he's the expert, he'll show us how to clean them.
okay,
And then I did talk to Derek about the liability. And it's something that he's gonna further speak with our solicitor, but we think it's covered. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's covered. The question is just if we, and every place does it differently, but if there should be waiver signed or not, so I'm still looking into that,
Okay.
but generally, yes.
great. And then, the last thing I had was, there was no mention of riparian buffers, plantings or maintenance. I was just curious, are you still, is that still something that the Conservancy is still gonna do, or are you gonna still kind of
This year, yeah,
check them out?
So
Okay,
he did mention it, he might have mentioned it. So in 2023, the main planting that we actually
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
with CRC through Applebrook was riparian, and the one that we did in Supply Valley was all riparian. So we always vote, yeah.
and you always go back and check over them?
Yep, and we're actually gonna probably plant the other side of the horseshoe in Supply Valley this year, the other side of the riparian buffer. We did sort of one side of it, but there's
Great.
still room on both sides of that stream.
Okay.
Again, we try to offer shade to the stream and stop some of the runoff coming from Reservoir Road and Stroudsburg Road at that corner right there.
Okay,
So, but yeah, and we always welcome residents if there are areas that maybe we're not aware of, let us know, especially if they're near a creek.
great. Mark, you wanted to make a comment?
You need Uber boxes, like, no, I think it's about, no,
Okay.
to be.
Who doesn't?
And then
Are they-
one
are
more.
they- are they-
We would go out on
Maybe-
Saturday. We'll
maybe
walk
they
till
can-
we Do that, look and see if we have spots for more.
And maybe we can put some over in Milltown as well. Bring some bluebirds over to that area.
And so most of your planning down there about $3 a lot.
Beaver took up. Beaver, okay. All right, well, thanks so much, Dan. Sounds like we've got some repair work to do in the riparian buffers, so, thank you so much, Dan, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And, the next group up is gonna be municipal authority, so I think Dana's here to do that. While Dana's coming up, we wanted to let you know that we're gonna be holding this goal-setting meeting in the even years moving forward, so we're gonna do this every other year. Next year, we'll ask everybody to submit their 2025 goals via email to Derek or to Ashley, wherever he directs them to go. We want to keep this with the years when new supervisors are seated so that they have an opportunity to be introduced to the volunteers in this kind of a forum. And then and we'll still do food or more robust food. In the opposite year, in the odd years, we're going to be doing volunteer appreciation event. So, we are going to try to do that every other year, just because we're trying to be mindful of fiscal, responsibility as well, but we still want to hold the event. It's just a function of, it's a little hard to do this and then immediately on the end of this, do another event. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Dana. Thank you.
I'm Dana Pizarro with the Municipal Authority. Also, one of our members is here tonight, Walter Ludick, who serves on several committees here, so keeping him busy. Municipal Authority is technically a legally separate entity from the township that's responsible for the waste collection system. We own it, and the town operates on a leaseback arrangement. Michelle, Madam Chairman, is our liaison this year to the municipal authority. Looking at the 2023 goals and see what we did. One of our key ones is that we always have to make sure we're protecting the stream down there and we're meeting our discharge permits for the treatment plant. And we did that in every month of last year. We're fortunate we have a very good contract operator there. And when we've had some of these wet weather events, they worked around the clock to make sure that we didn't reach any treatment standards. West Down Way Pumping Station, it still isn't finished construction. Mark, told you, basically, a lot of it had to do with supply chain stuff with electrical instrumentation that, you wait at least 6 months to get when you order it, if not longer. And while we didn't attend all the meetings because everything was pretty much stalled last year, Mark and Dave Ware were monitoring the financial side and checking in with those folks there. That's something we're actually going to do more of. We do not want the township and the municipal authority to be in the same position it was with West Ocean Sewer Authority. Their approach was basically deferred maintenance for 30 years, and it became a huge capital project over there. Not that they didn't have increased treatment standards, but it became a capital project for self-made stuff they didn't maintain. So we're going to be watching if they're maintaining, if we pay a portion of our flow goes in that direction. You know, it's less than 1 million gallons a day, but we pay for that. We pay West Ocean for that. Hershey Mill Estates, that was a big one last year. We were very fortunate. We had a very good contractor. We got a very good bid price. And I don't know how to characterize it, but it's almost Public Works does stuff for us that I call a hybrid approach because they're out there supporting the efforts with that. Pre-purchasing some of the equipment, the stone and the other stuff that put pricing so that, and then supplying it to the contractor. From what we can tell, Mark did a very good job of outreach to the residents there. Keeping them applied to the situation, let them know when things are going to happen because you're in everybody's backyard. They all want to know what's happening and what azalea bush you just ran over. The American Rescue Plan was our saving grace. The township supervisors put 824,000 over into that, which was a big deal at that point. And quite frankly, it helped us avoid about a $30 a quarter increase in the sewer rates. Because if we had to go outside and charge for that, it would have been a big increase at that time. UV disinfection. We had to replace the system at the treatment plant there. The original system that was put in between 2008 and 2010. Basically, it's UV disinfection rather than chlorination. And basically that kills the bacteria before discharge to the stream. Well, the system we had bulbs and they were no longer being manufactured. The original manufacturer went out of business. Mark scoured all over the country to find bulbs for a while, and finally was just like, we had to bite the bullet. And that's under construction right now. You know, there were some delays in that one, but it's the temporary treatment system is up. Temporary UV system is up and running. But we had to go. We couldn't get grants for that in time. Sutherland Valley, we were planning to do the sewers down there. One of the bigger problems in the township is there was a lot of asbestos cement seeds out there. Asbestos isn't the issue. Part of the problem is these really only have about a design life of about 50 years. And that's if it was installed correctly to begin with, which who knows? It was a cheap alternative at that time. Well, these systems are deteriorating. Mark's out there looking at these systems all the time, but we had to postpone that work at that particular location. We applied for a grant. We hope we get that money and proceed with that sometime later this year. Caustic Soda project, that was a minor project there, and that's been completed. We're looking at a couple of things. It's ready for startup, but we found out the other day we had some problems. There was some insulation that peeled off, and the system would be operational. It was supposed to go and freeze to what, about -20 degrees. But it was part of the original plan to have it on the tank, and the manufacturer has to fix that for us. Um. We often install flow meters throughout the collection systems here, because we're monitoring for inflow and infiltration, which is extraneous flows. You know, groundwater coming into the system, illegal connections, which are very few in the township. But, you know, we postponed that meter installation. We have a number installed right now, and there's, some others that are being considered at this point. The I&I program, that's ongoing. Like I said, that's a large part of, you know, what Mark and his staff, you can see them out there on the streets. You might see them out there at 2 or 3 in the morning, so I hope you're not awake at that time, but they're out there looking for those extraneous flows, because that's the time they go to look for them. It's easiest to find them. Since in theory, there isn't a lot of wastewater flow from residences to businesses at that time. There's still a number of neighborhoods that need to be done. One of the ones we had on there, you continue to explore the areas for potential expansion of the sewer system. That was basically a goal that was originally in the 2015 comp plan. And, you know, to update it and look at that system there. We had a preliminary study done on it. It was obviously very expensive. And the thing is, the reason we tabled it, we haven't gotten anything from the residents about issues or problems that, you know, they couldn't address on site. So we tabled that at this point, but it's something that, you know, we can look at from time to time, because quite frankly, all the soils in the upper end of the township really don't lend themselves to on-site sewer systems. You go read some of the old reports for soil and stuff like that, not a great idea. Well, that was last year. This year is kind of similar. You know, we have to operate the treatment plant in conformance with our permit requirements to discharge those treatment. Ongoing work with the flow infiltration program. Mark does for us. Quite frankly, if we had used outside contractors, it would cost us a lot more money. If Mark's got a staff that can do it, they have equipment, TV cameras, do all that work, and so they do that for us at a lot lower price than it would be if we subcontracted it outside or figured out. UV replacement system, we figure we're gonna finish that in May. We're gonna get back and attend the West Ocean Sewer Authority meetings, keep an eye on things over there, but not as often. I think the key thing really is the long-term sustainability. We realized last year we were hitting the gap. Sewer reserves have gone down. There's some very financial difficulties, and it's coming up. But what we did is we started last year, and we had Mark and I think my background was in wastewater and municipal projects. Put together a list of all the equipment we think is going to be replaced. You know what that schedule is based on experience now. Yeah. Wastewater treatment plant is severe duty. The wastewater collection system is severe duty. Contact duty place. Stuff breaks. But we got Mark and I sat down with Dave Ware and put together an extensive list of when we need to program that equipment replacement. The plan on it anyway, from a financial standpoint. At this point, we requested Dave Ware, the township finance director, develop a long-term, 10-year plan for us, rather than an annual plan, because we need to build our reserves, we need to have money backing us up, and we need to be able to decide, do we go to the market, borrow money, or do we take it out of our reserve fund, depending on what's most advantageous for us. So Dave's still working on, there's some more inputs he needs for his massive spreadsheet, but he's working on a number of scenarios for this one. But there is no doubt we're facing a sewer rate increase. It's what it is these last couple of years. I mean, everything has gone up. You know, we need staff retention, so we have to make adjustments for that. Start to find some of the people's marks. One thing I will say is I work with a lot of municipalities, and quite frankly, this one operates pretty lean and mean, particularly public works. They do a lot of stuff. I mean, not only are they working for the municipal authority, they're working for the township all over the place, and their utilization is pretty high. I don't think we see people sitting in trucks. Quite amazing, but frankly, based on my career. But anyway, the sewer rate increase is coming, you know, we need to do it. Everyone knows what the alternatives are. What are they? Don't flush. That's a good one. That's a good one. Or take pails to work. No, if you follow what's going on in the area with the private utilities and environmental and municipal stuff, you won't see anybody that's happy. And that's one of the things we want to do. We want to retain ownership of the system. Willis Town is calling us. They want to know how to establish an authority. What was their problem? The best I can tell, they're about 2 million shy in revenue because they never raised the rates. East Whiteland, they sold the Aqua. They get overturned. The original judge in that case basically said that there was no benefit for the citizens. So they were overruled, and it's back and forth. I think was it someone down near Oxford? You know, they were the first acquisitions in Chester County. They're very upset. The one thing you have to remember is if you go private, just remember, we only have to break even. They want 10% return on equity every single year. They have to satisfy shareholders. That's enough on that subject, but it's coming. I mean, I think everyone understands that. But quite frankly, the fact that we can do hybrid projects with public works and contractors that's needed, we're keeping the rates down as much as we can. I don't know anyone else that operates like this. I don't think West Scotia does. Caustic soda system, that'll be up and running soon. So that's about it. Questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. I just want to point out what Dana said is true. You know, Aqua and American Water they have shareholders they have to pay dividends to. They make no bones about paying at least 10%. They need at least 10% in profit. They're also paying union rate wages and prevailing wage. They're paying, you know, a certain amount of overtime for those middle of the night calls that our public works department very graciously shows up to take care of a lot of business. And they're capable of doing so much that we wouldn't have the service that we have currently without our public works department. Mark has a team of incredibly talented men, and we wouldn't have the immediate service that we have by far if we had to have Aqua.
Just off the cuff, I'll tell them minor project that public works does for us, I'm guessing we're saving 30 to 50% on that. And if you look at the prevailing wage rates, I mean, you're talking $75 to $100 an hour for some of these services.
Yeah.
So these hybrid projects are, you know, I think worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if you call them, we have an emergency at 2 a.m. and Bart doesn't show up, we're paying triple.
That's right.
You guaranteed.
Yeah.
For
Does anybody-
emergency services, and there have been emergencies.
And they're out there. Thank you very much, Mark and his team.
Yeah.
Anybody on the board have any other questions or comments?
Just very quickly, one thank you to Barbara Pete. If you haven't gone to the plant yet, I think it's my favorite thing I've done in my time as supervisor. So please,
It is, isn't it?
it's fantastic.
It really is.
Yeah, Mark will give tours, you just have to climb into his truck.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of the whole thing.
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
is. If you ever want to take a tour, we set them up from time to time, but it's, you know, it's worth taking a look at that, because when you look at the amount of assets, this municipal authority has, it's substantial. It's now 50 miles of sewer, the multiple pump stations, the treatment plant, the discharges, that's the other thing. Into that, a lot out there for a relatively small town.
Thanks so much, Dana. We really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Dana's gonna take a seat, and we have up next Park and Rec. So I don't know. Oh, there we go. Hello, hello. Thanks for coming out tonight. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. My name is
My name is Eric Tobin. I'm a 20-year resident and I'm chairperson of Park and Rec this year. I'm going to do a little bit of highlights of some of our years, some of this last year, and Jess is going to handle what we're looking to do this upcoming year. But while we're talking about Parks crew, thank you from Parks and Rec, because the amount of stuff they do for us is incredible. Debt of gratitude. You can see a lot of what I'm going to read, so I'm just going to highlight on some of the things that we've done. First one there is a new pickleball and tennis courts. Pickleball, if you drive by there on your way out of here, you'll probably hear and see them there. They are there almost 24/7. If we had lights, they would be, and they've asked for lights, but it's incredible how popular they have become. Carmen Batavia, we're talking about the importance of volunteers. He was named the PRPS Park and Rec State Volunteer of the Year. It's been invaluable to us in this township. We had 550 spots in our full day camp program that sold out in 6 minutes. It's been an incredibly popular program, and Jess will probably touch upon that as well. We had over 500,000 park visits in Scotian Township and Appleton Park. And you'll see some young people out there doing gear with iPads, walking around tracking. And I've seen them in there out in the park. That's what they're doing, trying to track through some software that we have how many residents and users we are getting. We had 100 families this year. Howl at the Moon is part of our inaugural EGT camp out, which is an incredibly popular thing. There's some pictures of these on the handout, and they're probably going to show up on that very well, but an incredibly popular event that we will be looking to do again. Jess, God bless her, she trained as a blacksmith and is independently operated the blacksmith shop and is one of 2 females in the state that are blacksmiths. So I'm sure she would love me to bring that up, but it's really pretty cool. It's actually really
Yes.
one of our residents, actually one of my neighbors, Melissa Slifer out of Bowtree, was our inaugural winner of township-wide photo contest. And they actually used her photo, and we partnered with Locust Lane, and that ended up on one of their beer cans, which is pretty cool. And one of the things we've done in the past and continue to do is we support Santa's sleigh, stuffed Santa's sleigh, the East High School prom dress, and the Cooperstown Little League Community Initiative. So just very popular things we've done along the year. And with that, I'll let Jess talk about 2024.
Hey Jess, I want to know what's your favorite project to do in the blacksmith shop?
Right now, I'm learning how to make leaves
Oh,
and
that's
petals
great.
and things like that,
Very
for
cool.
bottle openers or keychains.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's fun to be there tomorrow. So for 2024, we're doing our normal events and added a few extra throughout the year. We're hosting our first Memorial Day event on Monday, May 27th at 2 p.m. at the park. We are hosting the first high school state pickleball championship on May 18th. We got a grant last year for $5,000 for the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, and it'll go towards a couple of our events. There is no match in the township required. We are going to start assessing our fee structures to see if we need to update field usage, camp cancellations, pavilion rentals, and things like that. We have a college student who's going to do an internship and count the visitors at the park this spring, so we'll have a better idea of how many people are going to use the parks in the years. Last time that was done was 2017. And then this past year, we now have 7 voting members on the Friends of East Goshen Park, or Friends of East Goshen, and so they are the ones who come up with all the money to be able to host most of our events. So you'll see them throughout all of the events. And side note, besides Parks and Rec, I also handle the newsletter, so newsletter deadlines are due to me March 23rd. It will cover June through September. So if I haven't received that, there's your verbal warning, and then I'll remind you at some point in the future in the email.
Jess, I have a quick question for you. First of all, thank you very much for everything, Eric, and Jess, that you're doing for Park and Rec. So many people participate in activities with the township, and we appreciate that. Can you tell us, have the summer camp registration, has it already been opened?
Yes.
How many slots did you have this year?
So the same amount we took as last year, so
So 550.
550.
And
Right
it's
now,
still
we're up list, so we had.
sold out
our
pretty quick.
Yes, residents have access for the first week. And the non-residents could register after, so right now we're filtering out people who are canceling and adding there's one more list to.
Okay. How many are on the wait list?
I'm not 100% sure on that, I think there was about 30 each week, so a lot of the kids from the wait list were able to get in.
Oh, that's good.
Madam Chair,
Anybody else?
I just have something real quick. We used to be known for the great park, but now everyone says, oh, you live in East Goshen, there you have the best pickleball courts, so. And then the other thing is two weeks ago, we had scouts in here, probably about 15 to 20, not many of whom were East Goshen residents. And one of the moms said, can you please keep open your camp and expand your registration? I was like, well, you better move to East Goshen because residents get first. So great work by you all to make sure our residents are taken care of. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason, who was away at an event. Obviously, he's the head of this and does an unbelievable job.
He does.
Really spirit.
Absolutely. Kudos to Jason and Jess. Thank you so much. All right, thanks, Eric. All right, so we're moving on to Pipeline Task Force. Hey, Jerry, come on up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jerry Sutton. I'm Chair of the Pipeline Task Force. Over our accomplishments for last year. So the first one is a continuing objective, and that's to look into to see if we can have installed external leak detection of all the valve stations in the town. There are 4, and they're on the natural gas pipeline. The first thing we're trying to do is get confirmation of what's there and what's not there. And what the plans that the pipeline owners have for external leak detection.
Jerry, would you be kind enough to speak into the microphone a little bit better? You can move it however you wish. Just because our Zoom people won't be able to hear it on the recording.
Good, how is that? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And we're working with Derek to find the right contact person at each of these companies. Just sending a blast letter out is not going to get the response or the information that we need. So we will continue to pursue, but I think it's very important that these valve stations do have external leak detection, not just rely on internal process controls, which I just don't think are really adequate for what we do. The second one is probably one of our more important accomplishments, and that's the carbon dioxide pipeline ordinance. So just a quick background here. You may have seen in the news and heard about the current push from the federal government regarding clean energy, which is using hydrogen as a fuel. And hydrogen is a clean burning fuel. The concerns come with how the hydrogen is generated. If it's produced from a fossil fuel, then there are issues with that. And most importantly, when hydrogen is generated from methane, primary byproduct is carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It's also a hazardous substance. So the Pipeline Task Force conducted extensive research into the transport of this material and learned a lot about it. And it is something to be concerned with. It doesn't take too much carbon dioxide to start displacing oxygen, and then people have health problems. At a concentration of about 10% carbon dioxide, a person can asphyxiate. The current news topic is Mach 2. In fact, there's something in the news just today about it. So this is a project to put a hydrogen hub in southeastern Pennsylvania. If that goes forward, there really is a distinct possibility that carbon dioxide pipelines could be proposed for East Goshen Township. Because the way this works is hydrogen production is a high volume process, and it generates a lot of carbon dioxide as a byproduct. That material needs to be properly handled if it's just vented to the atmosphere, that's not really green, and that's not accomplishing the goal. So the carbon dioxide has to be transported for storage, somewhat permanent storage underground. And the only way to do that at the volumes that would be required are large pipeline systems. So, this is a possibility, and we want the township to be prepared for that. So we worked to draft an ordinance, and the purpose of it is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our residents from this hazardous substance, carbon dioxide. What the ordinance does is it places restrictions on the location and the operation of carbon dioxide pipelines within the township. The status at the end of the year, when this summary was put together, was it was currently under review by the Board of Supervisors. Having to report that last week at their meeting, the Board of Supervisors approved this ordinance. So it will be implemented. And I really think this is a step in the right direction. And I've already received inquiries from other organizations and other townships that might be interested in implementing a similar ordinance to place, these kind of controls on carbon dioxide pipelines, if this comes to fruition in the future. And number 3, one of our ongoing activities is monitoring work that goes on with existing pipelines. There are no construction projects for new installation right now, but there's always work going on. And quite honestly, the pipeline operators aren't exactly forthcoming with giving the township, especially Derek, a heads up of what they're doing. So a lot of times we're fielding questions from residents, well, what's going on, down the street? And so we work with Derek to find out from the operators what's happening. An example was, there was a long project right on Route 352 near Eldridge Drive at the entrance to Road Tree. And what they were doing is some repair work to the cathodic protection system. And what that does is it protects the pipeline that's underground from erosion. But it took quite a bit of work, and thanks to Derek and Mark to for following up with that, so we could find out what was going on there. Well, our fourth accomplishment is kind of an outcome of the third. And we got to thinking was, and also another incident, skipping ahead, was right outside the, right down here, really. Outside the village shopping center, there was work going on by Aqua. And again, East Goshen Township was given no heads up about it. And eventually, through some diligence, found out what was going on. We thought, well, it would be a lot better if the township was given prior notification by any work or of any work by any contractor in the pipeline corridors. I mean, it's something to be concerned about. Those corridors are filled with multiple pipelines. And extreme care has to be taken by contractors when they're digging there. And not only with their own pipelines, but with the adjacent pipelines. And I think it's in everyone's best interest that the township be advised of that, and they can take, whatever action they seem or they feel is fit. I think at a minimum be to notify the township what was going on. Well, we worked through this, and really the only practical way we figured that we could make this happen was an enhancement to the T81 call system, 811. But to make that happen, that requires help from the state legislature. So we did meet with Chris Paoli back in the summertime, and he was very much in favor of that. And so we're going to work with him to make that happen. It's not a simple thing to do when you're talking about changing laws here. And I'm thinking there's probably going to be some resistance from pipeline operators to do this. But it's really not that much more work on their part. They have to notify right now anyway when they dig. Just one additional step. Notify the township of work going on in their area.
Jerry, just to add to that, I think when we're looking at the PA one call system changes, potentially, I think we need to, I think you and I talked about this too, but it's definitely a more broad change than just the pipeline industry. Because we're looking at aqua projects,
Mhm.
pico projects.
Mhm.
It might be an enhancement even beyond the PA one call system, because the PA one call system gets such volume that it might be something out of the scope of that to even work with municipalities to be able to talk about upcoming projects, because we get resident calls all the time. Did you know Aqua is doing this? Did you know Pico is doing that? The answer usually is no, because they're not required to tell us. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that this is actually, this is a more widespread issue than just the pipelines, really.
Oh, for
So-
sure.
So,
It's the pipelines that started, I think, Derek's
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
And I think it's worth the effort, though, I really think it would be in everyone's best interest to have better communication from contractors or pipeline owners or utility owners, whomever, and when they're digging in areas like that. Okay, move on to, number 5. Actually, 5, 6, and 7 are kind of related. So, one of the things that the pipeline task force likes to do is provide, input and comments to, regulations or plans that are owned by a state or federal agency. And the first one was, FEMA, which is the Emergency Management Agency for the state. They wanted to do an update on their, hazard mitigation plan. A big part of that plan involves pipelines. And so that's our thing, and we were, happy to, provide them lots of comments, which I think are all good things for them to take into consideration. And we'll follow up with that to see how many of them actually do get implemented. 6 and 7 are kind of related. So, PHMSA is the Pipeline Hazardous Material Safety Administration. Last year, they, had 2 new rulemakings, come out. And we, again, this subject is, a really great interest to our task force. We provided them extensive commentary, on these, and all of our comments are posted in the Federal Register. And so we will follow up, with that, as each iteration of these rulemakings come out. We'll see what progress is made, and the idea is to get the voice of local municipal government heard in the creation and the implementation and enforcement, of these rules. And since we're the ones that live next to the pipelines, I think we should have a say in how they are constructed, operated, and controlled. That brings us down to, number 8. So the Mariner East project has been completed for a few years, but there are still a lot of follow-ups, with it. And there have been instances where, Energy Transfer has had to go back in and make repairs, make revisions. Problems were found. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to review their construction records to, determine if they complied with the, design guidelines that were in place when the project was completed. We sent a letter to PHMSA in July, and we had the support of Chrissy Houlihan with this. She thought this was something that we should pursue, and we did get a response. We just got the response from PHMSA, and we're going to evaluate that response. Just in general, it's hard to get this kind of information. A lot of it is classified as confidential security information. Whether that is really a necessary classification or not, that's debatable. I think that someone other than the parties that were involved, a third party like us, should have the opportunity to review these, to review what was done versus the guideline to see if they did comply. And we will continue to pursue that. Number 9 is something that we've been working on for a little while. It's called a pipeline information database. So there is a lot of information involved with these pipelines. There's a lot of pipelines in this township. And I think it would be good to have in one document, all this information. It would be useful not only to us, and we have this now, we use it internally, but also to the township, also to the township residents, and to other utilities. But we have to be careful about that information. It has to be accurate. And going back to the point I made before, sometimes getting this information from pipeline operators isn't easy or as easy as we would like it to be. They are very protective of this information. So we will continue to work with that. And when appropriate, when Derek and the supervisors think it's appropriate, perhaps we will publish this for our use. And lastly, like the gentleman before me said, we published, at least we tried to do an article in each of the township newsletters. The last 2, we talked about the blowdown valve. It's right out here on Bailey Pike. We talked about the county and state hazard mitigation plans in the newsletter that came out for the fall and winter. And the newsletter that just came out, there was a little piece in there about hydrogen fuel production and carbon dioxide pipelines. We will continue to do that as best we can for every newsletter. So our goals for 2024. A lot of these are ongoing objectives. But the first one is not, is something new. So Chester County Emergency Planning has, through the use of a contractor they've hired, they're going to develop a pipeline incident plan, and there will be an annex for each township specific to that area. I think this is a great idea. I think it's something that could be extremely useful to the township and especially to our first responders. So I think it's important that we, again, have our say, and on behalf of the township, our task force works to get our input to plans and documents like these. This is an ongoing project. We submitted some comments. This is just kind of like an update from the status of the end. We submitted comments and we will receive their response back to them. This will be an iterative process back and forth with them.
Jerry, excuse me, would you tell me, do you know when that's supposed to actually come to fruition with the county? Like, it's happening now, but do we have a deadline? Do you know?
I'm not sure exactly what their deadline is.
There's been no deadline. So they started this process in 2022. They were hoping to complete it by 2023, but due to unforeseen departures in the department that's working on it at the county, 2023 was not a good year in sort of moving this along. So they're definitely starting to get along now. What'll happen is after each annex is done for each specific municipality, and they're only working on the municipalities where along Mariner 2 pipeline. So those 9 or so, whatever municipalities, how many they are, they'll get the annex and it'll be presented to the Board of Supervisors to adopt as part of their current emergency response. So, I mean, I'm hoping by the end of the year, but they really have given us no timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Number two.
Yeah, number 2. Yeah, we will continue to advise the Board of Supervisors of any issues regarding pipelines and how it affects the residents of the township. And we will continue to monitor MOP 2. And that could be big, not only for the township, but for all southeastern Pennsylvania. So we want to keep our eyes and ears open to anything involved with that. And like I said before, any activities on pipelines, on active pipelines in the township, we'll just, as best we can, the concerns that are raised by the residents. Number 4 is to get the task force back to full staffing. At the end of last year, we were down to 3. But just a quick update, fortunately, I'm very happy to report that we're back up to 5 with the addition of Mary McCluskey. She used to be on ESAC. and David Shuey, the former township supervisor. They will be joining the task force and will be hopefully attending our meeting this coming Thursday. Number 5 is again, continuation of what I talked about our first accomplishment, and that's to continue to pursue the installation of external leak detectors in all the valve stations in the township. 6 is continuation of accomplishment number 4 I talked about, advocate for the enhancement of the 811 system. 8 is continue the work we talked about with accomplishment number 8, and that's the pipeline construction records. This is going to be difficult. It requires some digging. It's going to require some help, probably from our local representatives. But we will continue to pursue it. But again, I think it's worthwhile. I talked about the pipeline database again, when appropriate, and if appropriate, we will publish that on the township website. Another outcome of MOP 2 would be hydrogen pipeline. We focused our attention primarily on carbon dioxide pipelines, mostly because we thought that would be the first one that would impact the township. But it is also possible, although in my opinion, not likely, that hydrogen pipelines would be installed, or existing pipelines that are used for other materials could be converted for the transport of hydrogen. The reason I say it's unlikely is that typically the user of the hydrogen as a fuel is located near the hydrogen production facility. You usually don't see a long pipeline network between the two. However, if there's, a profit to be had to do it, then the pipeline companies will, pursue that option. And it's not out of the realm of possibilities that Mariner East 2 or any of the other natural gas pipelines could be also used to transport hydrogen. So we need to do some investigation and some research into that, just like we did on carbon dioxide. Again, hydrogen is it's a unique substance, and it cannot be just handled casually. Number 10, we will continue to contribute to the newsletters. There are no active pipeline projects in the township right now, but there is still a lot going on. And I think it's important that the residents be made aware of that. And lastly, we will continue outreach and relationship building with our local politicians. We try to at least have one attend a meeting every year. Last year, like I said, we had Chris Bialy. In the past, we had Carolyn Committa attend, and we've had others too. So we try to do that. Not only so they can see what we're doing, also we can, talk to them and let them know what our concerns are and what help we do. That's our goals for next year. Any questions or comments?
Comments from the board?
Just want to commend you for this very hard work, which is time consuming, I know, and slow and tedious.
It can be.
And so I commend your persistence and your outreach to our county and state officials, which I think is essential. And I did want to just mention to you that the carbon monoxide potentiality and problem was raised at the PSAC boot camp. And our ordinance was brought up and people thought local ordinances are one of the tools and people were interested. So
Glad to hear that. I think it is. And my prediction is that this is going to become a more relevant topic as we move along. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of get ahead of this,
I echo Barbara's comments. It's a lot of effort. And you are to be commended for being so dogged in
Thank you.
your efforts. I'm gonna say that I really do appreciate the fact you worked on that ordinance for us with us. And I'm excited that others are starting to already look at it to
Yeah,
adopt
me
it.
too. Yeah.
You should be proud of that.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. And
Yes.
Fred, we don't usually have public comment, but go ahead.
Very interesting,
Madam Chairman, if you extend the question from public, I mean, that's not part of this.
That's not usually what we do, but we can consider that maybe at the end. How about that?
Thank you.
All right, terrific. Thanks so much. And while Jerry's taking a seat, I'm gonna ask if Ernie will come up for planning commission, please. And or whomever is speaking on their behalf. And while he's coming to the podium, I'm gonna just make sure that everybody knows that John Herzog is not here because of a back injury, so he sent his regrets. I meant to mention that at the beginning, so my apologies in that regard. But we're working a little bit short today, but he is with us in spirit. Thanks, Ernie. Come on. Welcome.
Me, my name is Ernie Hartson. I am the chair of the planning commission. We are comprised of several individuals. I have a few of them tonight. We have our vice chair, John Stipe. And we have our two new members, Dan Pruitt and Fred Brody. Welcome to the planning commission. We also have longstanding members, Dan Daly, has been there before I was. I think he's probably been 10 or 15 years. Mike Kozel, who joined us about 3-4 years ago, and Mike Pagnell. Dwayne Brady is our liaison for the township. And John, unfortunately, headed back as our board liaison. The planning commission, we had a somewhat of a busy year last year. We've got a number of things listed. I'll just go through them. But most of what we do is we'll take a look at a ordinance or a subdivision, a land development project, or a zoning request or variance, and we see if it complies with obviously our ordinance and complies with our codes. And then we make a recommendation to the board of supervisors for approval. We're not an approval body, we just take recommendations to the board, they approve it. So we'll work, but our requirements for review are outlined in particular ordinances underneath the zoning ordinances, so around 240 and also 205 for subdivision of land. So this year we looked at a number of topics. We had a 301 Sword Hill Drive was a zoning hearing board request that was approved.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Jerry.
See, nobody knows.
Jerry knows.
But I didn't read it. Yeah, Sorrel Hill Drive was a zoning hearing board request that was approved. We also approved a 301 Reservoir Road, which is just past over Strasburg Road, right over that small bridge. Historical commission conditional use for recommendation to the board of supervisors that was approved. And you'll see also we are now working through a subdivision and land development project on that. That'll be coming to us. I think that's coming up the next month or two, so you'll be seeing that going forward. We also worked on 1010 Hershey Hill, which is a conditional use application for recommendation for the board of supervisor approval. That was sent to them. Approved. On the back, 301 Reservoir Road, it will be an additional 5 residents. That would 5 residents in that land. So there's 2 existing properties. I'll add 3 more. 1010 Hershey Mill Road, I believe is going to be 14, if I'm not mistaken. One of them is existing historical property. It's also a barn. That is we're waiting to see the subdivision. We'll be getting a subdivision and to the open space development application on that probably in the next coming months. We did look at the Applewood Golf Club. There had a land development recommendation for the board of supervisors that was approved. And I believe that's in the process of being constructed, if I'm not mistaken. 905 Reservoir Road was a conditional use application. That was also for add on to an existing one from many years back that was modified briefly. That was approved. Malvern Institution, which there's been a lot of discussion both in our meetings and for the board over the years with that. That's been a contentious thing within the township with the residents close by to the institution. Their application is currently on hold, and from what I can tell, I think it's going to see their.
Yeah, it expired. Yeah. So they would have to go, but from what I've heard, they have new management and no desire to pursue what has been controversial here for the last better part of a decade. So that's the preliminary word on the street.
Yes, so we have that on hold. I don't see anything happening with that. 14 Reservoir Road, that's also a subdivision application. That's if you go on Reservoir Road, a number of those lots are flag lots.
to a house in flag lot means it's got a smaller driveway for a lot. In fact, it's a flag hole. There's been a few, we've approved a few of them here, that one's still, in the queue, and we're waiting for the subdivision application for that. That's what we've been doing for 2023.
Bernie?
Yes.
If I could just interrupt for a second and ask, on the 14 Reservoir Road, how many, they're looking for subdivision, how many, lots are they looking to divide this into?
One, I'm sorry.
It'll be two.
Two
Thank
residents,
you. Okay,
a flag lot, so the flag lot will go next to the first one.
Okay. okay, thank you.
Yeah, and there's some issues there, if I'm not mistaken, I think there were some issues with the fire protection, and I think some of like in the bottom. There were, I just can't remember.
Sorry.
So 2024, as I said, 1010 Nursing Home Road, Oak Street development application, that'll be coming through. I guess that's already 14 residents. 301 Reservoir Road, that'll be a subdivision land development application, that also should be coming through, we should see that in another month or two, when we get through that, we'll be sending that up to. We talked about Foot Road, okay, there's two new ones that arrived, early this year. Now we get confused here, it's 1344 Markstein Road subdivision application, and it's also a 1338 Fortune Road subdivision application. One of them is entirely in Scotia. The other one is part of West Scotia, I think.
West Whiteman.
Well, I'm sorry, West Whiteland. The other one is part of West Whiteland, which will go over into East Scotia. So we've just seen an initial preliminary on that. We haven't even, we've just been discussed on it. It hasn't been in discussion or review by the planning commission, but that'll be on the document. And then, of course, you talked about the Malvern issue land development application, which has expired. We have to put it in that application. Okay, there's a couple of things we put on, the list. Coming up, the comprehensive plan, we're thinking about looking at a couple parts of the plan, despite going through and see if the answer be updated on it or see make recommendations. That was a request from liaison several times back. So we haven't really moved on that very much, other than trying to figure out how we want to do it. If we're going to do that, what we thought we'd do is just take a look at various parts of it, put it in the letter, make recommendations. The other thing there's the next two things I think are pretty important that we're going to tackle. We want to review and update the planning commission bylaws. So they haven't been updated for a while. So we're going to take a look at that, bring about current. There's questions like, how you like the chair, how long is it in place, stuff like that for the bylaws. So we're going to take a look at that, and I don't think it's been touched for quite some time, and we'll get the review on that. I don't know. I'm assuming that's probably going to require some type of imprimatur on the board, but we'll figure that out. The other thing we want to do is we want to put together a new member package. We've got a couple of new members here in the last, I'll say, couple of years, and there's a few things that are in, that are helpful. There's certain tools we use that are actually they're available to anyone in the township, but it's the actual codes, especially the zoning code 40 and subdivision land development should apply. We also use tools such as Chesscode uses. Anyone that on Chesscode use. So we use that tool. We want to sit there and put package and use it. There's a few other things. So we want to put together a new member package. I know right now the township will give you some. A new member usually gets some information on some of the self-planning and some of the ethics things and stuff like that. But we want to put something that's more along the lines of how you do the job as a part of the plan. So we'll put that together. And then the last thing is the town center, and that's just there. If you folks want to move on that, there's a lot of new people, both in the planning commission and also if you want more discussion on it, I don't think we can talk about that tonight. If you want more that we're available, if you want to go forward, that will be. So that's still out there. And I know questions that have come up recently about that. I think would work best if you want, we can set something up to talk about it, even if it's all a lot of, there's a lot of information there. But what my point here is if we'll support whatever you need more additional. That's all.
Okay. Thank you very much for the update on everything. I think that it's a great idea to look at the bylaws. It might not be a bad idea for some of the other committees to also consider looking at some of the other agencies to look at their bylaws that hadn't been brushed off in a while. That's a good point. And a new member packet is actually a good idea too. As far as I'm concerned, we don't take any votes tonight, but to give you a sense of where we are on some of these issues. I'm a hard no for the TND because in my opinion, that's spot zoning. It includes a very specified area and it's carved out from the rest of the township. It's the parcel between Boot Road and 352 along Bailey Pike, this side of the pike specifically. And so in my opinion, I am a no. I don't want to see anything else on the TND or the TND override. That's my opinion. And I'll let anybody else express their opinion on that matter so that you know whether or not to move any further on that.
We have nothing else to do. It's in your report.
Yeah, well, my point is that I don't even want to see it on the goal for next year. That's my opinion. Cody, do you have any opinion?
Not an outspoken one right now. I guess it's in front of us now. If it's something we want to address with the comprehensive plan next year, we can address it. But I did have a question about which property here, 1344, 1338, which one is in West Goshen? For the most
So it's 1338. It's it's actually West Whiteland and it's a proposed subdivision of 13 homes in West Whiteland and only 3 of them are in East Goshen, which complicates the matter for the developer more than anybody, but that's currently the plan. It could change. There's no, as far as I know, there's no developer tied to the project yet. It's owned by the Westchester University Foundation and they're looking at developing it, at least putting the plan together. It's another one. It's 2 different, yeah, trust me, I know. So.
Barbara, do you have any other questions or comments for Ernie? No. Great, thank you. Pete?
No,
Okay. All right, well,
All right,
thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. And as Ernie sits down, I guess we're moving on to the ESAC. So the person who's going to be speaking to us this evening, looks like it's going to be Christy. So Christy, come on up. Thanks for coming out tonight. Yeah, you have to move that one.
Yes, I worship. Good evening. And first of all, I'm Christy Marshall, the Environment and Sustainability Advisory Council. And first of all, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for hosting this event. It's extremely helpful, not only from an informative standpoint, but an inspirational one to hear about the incredible dedication and devotion that so many volunteers bring to this township. Very impressive. So I want to thank the members of ESAC who gave so many hours and excellent talents this past year who are not continuing with us into 2024. So these are Alice Lenthy, Brian Hutchinson, and Mary McCloskey, who's moved on, I understand, to the Planning Task Force. My profound thanks for the members continuing this year. These are Mary Kruger, Christine McCormick, and Peg Freeze. All 3 have given freely of their considerable experience and knowledge in the work of sustainable practices and protecting our environment. And we now have 3 new members, and we look forward to their generous contribution of time and talents to our work going forward. So, work accomplished in the last year. We hosted the 2nd Sustainability Expo at the park, along with West Goshen SAC. We participated in as many township events as possible, weather permitting. It was a tough year for events this year, but these included Keep East Goshen Beautiful Day, the Pumpkin Festival, the Trick or Treat event, and we would have participated in a few more if weather hadn't stopped us. We have representation on the Westchester Green Team, the Westchester Area Clean Energy Future Committee, and Chester County Environmental Council. We maintain a Facebook page for ESAC with postings multiple times each week. We planted and maintained native plants in front of the township building at the entrance by the East Goshen Township sign. We requested the board apply for a grant for lidded recycling bins for approximately 3,000 homes, and that recommendation was accepted. The grant was applied for, and those bins are now distributed. We submitted and the board passed a resolution for reductions in single-use plastic bags, straws and styrofoam containers. And we added 2 youth advisors to ESAC, who are currently co-chairs of East High School Environmental Club. So going forward to 2024, consistent with our new resolution, we will be offering relevant businesses stickers for their entrance doors or any part of their outside entrance they wish to post them, advising residents to bring their own reusable bags to shop. We will be offering small reusable canvas bags to residents for use in small item purchases at places like CVS and Wawa to pick up your meds or a hoagie and a beverage. We will continue participation in as many East Goshen Township events as possible, and we hope to add 1 or 2 this year. We will continue a multi-year plan of planting native species in front of the township building to include a small pocket park in front of the storage building with the walking path. And then after additional planting this year, we hope to offer workshops for children and adults on native species and their benefits in coming seasons. We will be initiating an outreach to residents in multifamily dwellings to provide education on recycling, lowering electric costs, and the health benefits of fruit and vegetable planting in community gardens. We're considering the possibility of a 3rd Sustainability Expo. In the meantime, our youth representatives at East Goshen High are planning a small event at their high school along these same lines. We are considering, there are many townships around us now host what are called repair cafes. And these are events in which volunteers offer their services to repair small appliances or all kinds of things that they will do, knife sharpening, they will repair watches or jewelry, small repairs of chair legs, etc. Whatever can be accomplished in a couple of hours. And many townships are now offering this for their residents to bring in 1 or 2 items within that window of time. So we're considering being able to offer that here in East Goshen. We have many skilled workers and we're hoping to enlist their assistance. And lastly, we have several antiques dealers here in East Goshen. And you all may be familiar with the Antiques Roadshow, and we're considering not something identical to that, but something in which our antique dealers would be invited to come and give a review for our residents of 1 or 2 items, as long as they have some interest in actually selling the items to make it feasible for our antique dealers. So we hope to, these are all along the idea of things that should be sustainable or restorative rather than just throwing things into the bin. We're all about helping to reuse and refocus and reconstitute or recycle. So I think that gives a brief overview.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments from the board?
Just want to thank you for your persistence and hard work and for the committee and welcome to the new members.
Christy, I just have, you don't have, no response necessary, but I hope that you do a 3rd Sustainability Expo. I had fun. I think it was last year, Michelle and I read, was it last year or the year before? Yeah, oh, time flies, but because last year's one outside. I love that event. I think it's fantastic, so.
Well, there is some interest from Willistown or Westtown. We got a late start this year, so we may be looking at something perhaps September or October, but we're talking about it.
Great.
Do you have any questions? None? Christy, before you go away, I wanted to know, the outreach to multifamily dwelling, residents. You do understand that there is people in multifamily dwellings are usually like in the condos and apartments. Their recycling and their refuse is, private.
Yes.
So we can't really dictate to them what they're allowed to recycle, what they're
We
not
do
allowed to
understand.
recycle.
Yes.
And then, the same thing goes as far as, community gardening. We can't require any of them to have community gardening facilities at any of those locations. And at this time, there's no place in the township that's really set up to have water that would be handily available. And also, we just don't have like manpower to be able to maintain something like that. So what is your?
We had already explored, going back a couple of years, so we do know that there isn't a proper place based on the reasons you're giving us in East Goshen and the parks. But there are a lot of ways we can help people who don't have their own gardens. There's things you can do on either a small balcony or in a window or whatever. So there's many projects that, again, there's great advantage in families being able to start to explore being able to grow their own fruits and vegetables,
Okay.
even in a very small step.
Okay, and then, as far as, lowering electric costs and whatnot, shouldn't that be really a township-wide effort so that we can, wouldn't it be better to have like a large outreach to businesses and the community to really look at lowering how they can lower their energy costs? Wouldn't that be
We've been
something?
doing that in conjunction with PICO for several years now. So for
Right.
instance, every year that we've been able to appear at the Community Day, we've hosted, PICO has been beside us at a joint table. So we've offered to families with their own homes, free opportunities, whereas it costs something if they don't go through, this opportunity. What we're talking about here is making people aware of the advantages of star safe energies, there's all kinds of things we can help them understand. Many of them don't purchase large scale appliances, but they
Right.
do often purchase microwaves or toasters or small things. And there are ways that we can help them.
Okay. Great, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much for all of your efforts. We appreciate it. And, I'd like to see a little bit of promotion, for some of these efforts on the township website. And, maybe some social media push for those things, but that's something that we can work on.
Just quickly, we are hoping to add a great deal more content under our tab along these lines.
Great, that's terrific. Thank you so much. Any board members have any other comments that they'd like to make before we dismiss for the evening? And even though it's not on there, am I allowed to have public comment, Derek, or is it
You can have public comment whenever you want.
whenever we want?
Yep.
Well, does anybody in the room have any comment that they'd like to make before we leave for the evening? Come on up. Come on up to the mic. And while Dana's coming up, thank you very much to everybody for all the effort that you put into wrapping up the 2023 goals that you were able to accomplish. And thank you for all the effort put into the thought that went into the goals for 2024.
In particular for the municipal authority, I appreciate that, when the planning commission was looking at 1010 Hershino Road, they allowed for a right of way going back to the other development behind that. In the future, if we ever have to sewer some of those facilities, we have the right of way already in place. I have the unfortunate distinction of being one of maybe the only member of the municipal authority who's not on the sewer system. Problem was, when they did Rossmore, I wasn't smart enough to participate in it, and no one looked to connect in a bunch of streets up in that section of the town. Ivy Lane to Orchard and some of these others to get a right of way back into Rossmore because they're fully sewered. And I've actually reached, just for comment, I've actually reached out to them because I said I would give up my right of way on my property, and several of my neighbors would, if they would allow us to launch a grinder pump system back into Rossmore. And because it's an HOA that's managed, I was shot down because we can pick up 5 or 6 houses and all the homeowners are willing to front the cost for that. So on these other developments that you're looking at, whether they're in the White Rings or whatever, please continue to look for those opportunities to gain a right of way, because it would greatly facilitate any future work out there.
That's a really good point. Can you come on up and speak to that, please, if you don't mind? Thanks, Ernie. That way everybody can hear your response. I think this is a really unique opportunity as well to actually have face to face with some of the other committees, and it really does help for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, certainly, we get the packages in, it's in our agenda. And, we'll try and make it a point to let you folks know that, that's in and obviously work to go in and. Start, so.
Yeah, we did see the package there, Mark, thought it, put it on our agenda here, so we got to see it there.
Yeah.
No word either, that's actually counted.
If you don't, just let me or John know, and we'll get you, we'll even go to your meeting, whatever.
Just keep an eye out for the opportunity.
Okay.
We're making a lot easier to the county in the future, somewhere down the road, we have to serve those communities.
Really, that's a really good idea. Thanks.
Fine, things slow.
No, please do.
You've been waiting all year to use it.
Okay, on that terrible dad joke, anybody else have any comments on the board? Thank you all for coming. I'm gonna ask if we can go ahead and adjourn, and don't forget to stop back and grab a piece of sandwich or tomato pie. Thanks so much for coming out, everybody.
Aye.
Do we have to vote on adjournment?
Yeah.
Oh, can I have a motion for adjournment, please?
Madam Chair, make the motion to adjourn.
There we go. Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.